Hello and welcome back to the Stu Simpson Show. That's if you're coming back. And if you're a new time listener, thank you very much for being here. Today, I'm meeting up with an old Camino friend, and I haven't seen her since I left her in Santiago. Hello, Zsofi. How are you? It's been ages.
Hi, hello. I am very well, thank you. I'm still feeling the post-Camino blues, but things are slowly changing. So I'm very happy about all these kind of things.
Yeah.
So very well, thank you.
Good. No, I have missed my Camino family massively, and you became a part of my Camino family a little bit later in the journey. So what have you been up to since you went back to Hungary?
I'm started to doing some freelance jobs because I'm a graphic designer, and it still needs some time to everything to work out. But I think I'm doing well, and I'm very hopeful about this. So, yeah.
Yeah, because on the Camino, you weren't that sure about whether you wanted to go back to graphic design.
Yes, but this is a little bit different because freelance I think it's closer to me than like a normal workspace. So I'm trying to doing my best, and slowly it works out.
Yeah, and I loved your work. I was because you showed me some of it when we were walking. It's really beautiful, very creative. So why did you decide to do the Camino in the first place?
Okay, so when I was a kid, my mother got a shell, the shell symbol of the Camino.
Yeah.
One of her colleagues, which was a little bit strange because they were not really close friends or anything, but this colleague of my mother still want to give her this shell, and my mother hangs this shell in my room, and I live under like 8 years as a child.
Wow.
And I'm not even know what was that, but one day I saw a video in YouTube, and there was a shell symbol in it, and somehow I connected. And so since like I was 12 years old, I want to do the Camino. But until last September, it was just an idea for me, something that I want to do in the future. But then I lost my job in last September, and suddenly I realized I have no responsibilities in my life right now, like no school, no job, no nothing. So I decided just let's go and do this. And it turned out good. So I'm really happy that I did this journey.
Oh no, I miss it terribly. It's it's an odd thing in the sense that when you're doing it, it's quite tiring and all the rest of it. But I've been thinking about this today. It's maybe on the Camino is perhaps the only time that I've ever really fully felt able to be myself completely. Do you know what I mean? Instead of because nobody knows you, and you're just there, you're doing your thing, and you go, oh, I can be me. And I'm not going to see these people ever again. And here you are. Yeah, exactly. So did you feel as if you could be yourself, like really, really be yourself on the Camino in a way that maybe you can't at home?
Yeah, I think yes, I can. I could be myself along the way, but it's really interesting because you have no pressure in the Camino, like in a social way. If you don't like anyone, you can just walk away and nobody will say anything about it. And if you like somebody or you want to chat with somebody, it's totally okay. So yeah, I think it's you can be your true self if you want in a Camino.
Yeah, it was a wonderful experience. It was I can't explain it to anybody unless I'm doing these podcasts for. It's just kind of like, yeah, go be yourself and walk a long way. But we came across you a little bit later on the Camino. You joined my little Camino family a little bit late with Andre. And on that fateful wet day in Galicia, and I was wringing out my socks, and I sat at the bar, and then we just started chatting. I was probably moaning about how wet I was and drinking brandy at 10:30 in the morning because I was so
Yes.
unhappy and cold. What made so? Did you like have a big Camino family by the end of it? Because you started off on your own, and then you met some people and you walked with them, and then you met me and Andre, and then you kept walking with us.
Yes, I started a Camino as a solo traveler,
Mhm.
and honestly, the whole experience was more social than I thought before. I met a lot of people, and I heard so much crazy stories about people's life. It was very interesting, and it's truly amazing to realize how much amazing and interesting people lives in this planet. So, yeah. So I prefer to walk alone, but sometimes it's so good to just to talk someone like one person or a bunch of people. And I met a bunch of people just before I met you and Andre, and it was really good to stay with these people sometimes. They are very vivid and very funny, happy people, and they go together like from day one. So they are know each other very well. And yeah, sometimes I just stay with them, and sometimes I was staying behind, and it's so good. They so I don't feel the pressure to go with them all the time, and I don't feel a pressure to being left out of something. So yeah, it's a really good experience, I think, too.
Yeah, no, I was so surprised when you decided to walk with Andre and I, because the group that you're with were really vibrant and young, and I'm a middle-aged gay eccentric Englishman, and Andre is this joyous German joker, And I was like, why did you want to walk with us instead of like the really cool kids?
No, it's not like that. Yeah, I like to know different people. So yeah, and I had fun with you guys, so it was totally okay.
Yeah, I felt privileged. It was very, very sweet. So I went all the way on the Camino Frances. It took me 7 weeks and 2 days apparently to do the whole thing. How long did it take you?
I think it was 42 or 3 days, Joe. So around 6 weeks. But I was in no rush, uh, so I'm trying to take my time and go walk really slow to enjoy things. So yeah.
Yeah, and towards the end, I mean, because I left you in Santiago because you wanted to do a few days in Santiago before you carried on to Finisterre. What did you do in Santiago without me?
Mostly sleeping.
Ah, really?
Yes, I booked a private room like a third time in a Camino, so I really enjoyed being alone, and nobody kicks out me of bed before 8 a.m. like in those albergues. So I really felt good to sleep in and take my time, have long showers, and visiting the city. So yeah, I think it was like 3 days, and then I went to the ocean. So yes, it was the first time for me to see this type of ocean, and it was really
Yeah,
majestic. And then I'm really happy to walk 3 more days just to see the ocean. So yeah,
yeah.
totally worth it.
I'd forgotten that because I remember having that conversation with you that you'd never seen the sea, that sort of like the ocean before in that sort of setting. And that really surprised me. And then I saw your pictures on Instagram. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So, because Finisterre is beautiful. It's quite an astonishing, but I only got to be there for one day, unfortunately, because myself and Marta and Rebecca, we had to take a detour. So we ended up going to, what's the other place called? Begins with an M, I think. The other
Lucia?
beach. That's the one. Yeah, Muxia. So we ended up going there by accident via some place called Dumbria. So that was, yeah, it was really, really weird. But because it was getting dark, and so it just put an extra day on, which was fine. It was actually, it was nice, and I really just missed them. It's just my Camino family. I just really do. Sort of, it's an odd thing. So I'm not a massive fan of albergues due to my problems with sleeping, because you sleep amazingly well, incredibly well. So you shared with me and Andre, and I'm snoring and he's snoring, and you're just like out for the count. You didn't get up once in the night. You just sleep. It's amazing. So I'm assuming this question is probably a little bit superfluous. How did you find the albergues?
So I think this is my special skill. I can sleep anywhere. I still needed to headphones to sleep through the night mostly, but I was totally okay with all those albergues and peoples and stuff. I don't really book anything since day 3, I think, because at the day I met a really nice lady, and we have a chat, and she started to talk about the accommodations. How did she reserve a bed? And she asked me, did I reserve something for me? And I say no. And she totally started like panicking. Why didn't you do? Why? So she make me feel I make a bad decision not to book any bed, and I started to freak out too. Then she just left because we arrived in the next city, and then I just walk into the first albergue totally in stressed. And as the man who works there, do you have any free beds for tonight? And he just stares me like I'm crazy, and he says, Les, we have a bunch of beds, so no need to panic. So after that, the day I just stopped booking anything and just go with the flow.
Yeah, I noticed there's an awful lot about people projecting their own fears, and it's so easy to get caught up when people go, but you'll end up sleeping on the street. And I didn't once meet anybody sleeping on the street who didn't want to be doing that anyway. Everybody,
Yes.
you'd end up only sleep on the street if that's what you wanted to do. But yeah, so generally, I think people shouldn't be scared, and they should just. Well, I mean, we didn't go on busy season, or we kind of went off a little bit off season. So, but I love the fact that we managed to kind of see so much different weather because we went off season. So we went towards the end of the summer, so we still got some of the heat and some of the sunshine. But then when we got to Galicia, we got a lot of rain.
Yeah, mostly
So,
in the end. Yeah.
do you feel that you give? Because I think you get a lot from the Camino. Do you feel as if that you give anything to the Camino as well?
So, did I give? What was the question again? Sorry.
Okay. What? First question is a two-part question. What did you get from the Camino? And then we'll come back to the other one.
Okay. I think I get more independence from the Camino, because when you are on the road, you have to, you have to sleep somewhere, you have to eat something 3 times a day, and you have to manage it by yourself.
4 times a day. You can have second breakfast. You have to have the second breakfast.
Okay. I forget about the second breakfast, but yes. So I think it's very good. It was very good for my independency to know that I can manage all those things, and because I do it every day in like 42 or 3 days, it's really struck me like I can stay alive in these conditions, and I can solve all my problems. So I think it's very good for my independency.
Absolutely, it's extremely good for like self-esteem, independence, just feeling, because you can go to these things and going, I'm gonna die. It's like, what am I? I'm walking across the country, and that you do come away from it. But I came away from feeling a lot stronger and a lot more kind of like, yeah, I can do much. I'm stronger than I ever thought I was. So I think it's really good for that side of things. So the second part of the question is, so you do get a lot from the Camino, but what do you feel as if you give to the Camino?
First, I think I hope I am a little part of other people's journey. I had some really interesting and really deep conversation with some people. So I like to believe that these conversations are added something to them too, and not just me, like a new point of view or something like this, you know. And in a less literal way, I uh, I I added my boots to the Camino because I left them behind. I have these boots like like 10 years, and they are just overused in the way. So I write my Instagram name on it and left it in a nice forest. So if anybody ever finds it, please send me a message on my
Oh, that's so
Instagram.
cool. I love that. Yeah, there was lots and lots of sort of ways people communicated without talking on the Camino. Like people would just leave bits of themselves behind really important parts. So you did that with shoes. Andre did the same thing. He because he didn't like his shoes were perfectly fine, absolutely fine, but they were too heavy for him. So he ended up getting new shoes, and he got blisters. So and I was like, well, I don't want to say I told you so, but anyway. But I think it's important to leave something as well as take something. It just seems to there's a balance which seems to happen. You didn't, so yeah, sorted the accommodation thing out. That's all good. And are you going to do another Camino? Would you go back?
Mm, yes, and I'm planning to do another way like the Portuguese one,
Oh,
or
cool.
yeah, and it's just 2 weeks, and it's nearby the ocean, so I really want to do that. I think it will be really nice. Maybe in this year, who
Yeah.
knows?
I always said that I didn't think I'd ever be the only one time that'd be it. And now, since I've come back from the Camino, I'm walking every single day. I'm trying to do 5 miles every day, just because I feel so much better for it. It's and I never ever considered myself to be a walker, and I did so. But the only preparation that I did for it before this was to start walking before the Camino. Did you do any prep yourself before you started the Camino, or did you just turn up and start walking?
No, I literally stand up by my chair, buy a flight ticket, and just go. So I organized the whole trip in 9 or 10 days. So I don't really have the time to practice. I only bought a bag, and that's all. So it was a very spontaneous decision to go. But I'm really happy I do this because yeah, it really helped me to to survive a really hard part of my life. So yeah,
Mm,
it definitely worked for me.
excellent. And I really enjoyed the fact that I went on my own, met people, including yourself. And I mean, in the future, would you ever want to take family or a friend with you? Because I think it would change the journey a bit. But would you like to do that or not?
I would say no, because if you are with someone, I think it's a mm, very different experience. So if I do it again, I will definitely do it alone because you can learn a lot of new things about yourself, and you have nobody with you who speaks your mother language, or you can mm, share these decisions with other people, like where to sleep, where to buy food and stuff, and I think it's very important to spend time with just yourself, thinking and walking, and only talk people when you feel like you want to talk people.
Hmm, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So what was the most challenging things in the Camino for you? What was hard?
Mm, so I heard a story. Somebody told me there is three parts of the Camino. First for the body, second for the mental part, and the last part for the soul. And the body part, the physical physical part was not that hard for me. I mean, yes, of course it was hard, but I imagined it before way much harder. And I think for me the hardest part was just to walk and think about my my stuff, and even at the meseta, the
Yeah.
the famous meseta, I have a day when I only have one tau in my mind, and it was on repeat. So at one point I feel like I'm going crazy because that was just one tau in my mind, and it was repeated on and on and on.
Mm.
And I met a random man from, I think he's from the US somewhere, and then he just offered me a biscuit, like a chocolate cookie, and it felt so good to talk with this man for a few seconds, and I never seen him again in the Camino, and yeah, that was the hardest day I think for me, but it turns out good, and yeah.
Oh, you got a little Camino angel. I do love when they turn up. They're
Yes.
very, very sweet. And
Kind of.
so that sounds like a very good standout memory for you. But for me, the memory which really, really stands out between you, me, and Andre is when we found the donkey.
The donkey.
The donkey. What can
Yes.
you remember his name?
Yes, it was Puskás.
Puskás. That's excellent. And
Yes.
the people who owned him, they were Hungarian, weren't they?
Yes.
Yes.
It's
So
a very sweet story.
so I like what happened afterwards, though. You told me you sort of,
Okay.
yeah. So tell the listeners.
So the full story, we saw a donkey. I think it's before 30 kilometers before Santiago, and I know a Hungarian man from some random Hungarian Facebook group, and he went famous because one day a few years ago he got on a train with his donkey, and it was there was a photo, and it went like viral in Hungary. So I know he exists, and when I saw the donkey, I thought that would be very great if this man was the same man with the donkey. And I saw him, and the first question to him, it was, "Are you a Hungarian or what?" And he started to smiling and started to speak me in Hungarian, and we had a really good conversation because before that day I don't really talk in my first language, like Hungarian, to anyone, and it was so good to hear my mother language. So yeah, it was a very good situation, and it turns out really good. And then like a month after that, when I come back to Hungary and go back to my hometown, I was standing at the train station and waiting for my train, and suddenly a man touched my shoulder, and he said "Buen camino," and I was thinking like, who is this man? I never. And he started to laughing, and he said something like this, "You don't remember me without a donkey." And then I realized this is the same man that I met in a random Spanish forest.
Yeah.
And it turns out he has an apartment in my hometown, like 2 kilometers from my house.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a small world. It's very funny. Yeah, so we take the train trip together. We talked a lot, and yeah, it's just a random thing.
Camino magic is real, absolutely.
Yes.
So yeah, it was amazing. So, but I'm afraid we've come to the end of the questions. And then, so is there anything that you'd recommend for anybody who's thinking about doing a Camino? Would you say just to do it? Is it for everybody?
I don't say is it for everybody, but if somebody feels the urge to go, it is definitely for them. So yeah, my advice is to not take it too seriously and be as spontaneous as you can. It's a very so yeah, that's my advice
Yeah,
overall.
and share wine with donkey men in forests.
Yes.
Because they did open the bottle of wine, didn't they? That was wonderful.
Yes.
And we shared, we all drank from the same bottle. COVID's in the past, it's fine. We weren't worrying about COVID at that point. So, it's been wonderful catching up with you again. So thank you so much for being on the podcast. And one last thing, buen camino.
Buen camino for you too, and thank you.
Absolute pleasure. And if anybody wants to get in touch with you on Instagram or any of your social media stuff, what would they look for? Because obviously you're a graphic designer and you could do with the work.
Yes, my Instagram address is, so my Instagram page's name is Zsofi Doing Things, but yeah, you can find my graphic design stuff here.
I'll put a
more
link in the details so
yeah,
people,
it's better, I think.
Yeah. So and I love the way that you told me how to pronounce your name, Zsofi. It's like you said, it's like the je in bonjour, and it's like cool. So
Yes.
it's not Sophie or Zsofi, it's Zsofi. So it's wonderful. Thank you very much, and buen camino, and love you lots, and I miss you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, Stu.
Take care. Bye bye.